Alright guys, welcome to this Sunco software video tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be focusing a little bit on databases and working with stored procedures. Now I know there's other ways that you can bind data inside of WPF without having to worry about taking the route of working with stored procedures. Now, the reason I like to work with stored procedures, and this is a personal preference for me, is because it gives me more control over the database and how I work with my data. Now, doing stored procedures is basically you're creating SQL statements that goes against the database and or tables within the database. So I've already prepared most of this stuff. I created the database already. So if you're new to programming, I'll show you real quick how we do that. So you just right click on your project name and add new item. Then you're going to click on the data item and then service-based database. Give your database a name and click add. That'll add the database to your Solution Explorer. Now you're going to double click on that, and that's going to open up your Server Explorer, and it's going to expand your database so that you see these subfolders here, or these folders. You're going to right click on tables and go add new table, and that's going to open up a design surface that looks similar to this. So now I just created my fields in here just as you see them here. The ID field is, if you go into your properties here, down to identity specification, that's going to be set to false automatically. So if you just expand that and set that to true, then that's just going to allow you to auto increment entries. So every time you add a new entry into the database, it's automatically going to increment it for you. And then after that, I just renamed the table. So by default, where people is, the default name is going to be table. So make sure you rename that, because that's going to be the name of your table. And once you do that, you can just click update, and it's going to open up another window where it's going to update the script against the database for you. And once you do that, then you are where I'm at right now. Okay, so I'm just going to close out of that, and I'm going to right click on our stored procedures folder and choose add new stored procedure. And you can name this whatever you want. Make it relevant because you're going to be calling this this stored procedure once we convert it to a method or a function. Okay, so I'm just going to name this one, let's call it create contact. And we're going to assign some parameters. These parameters are going to be they're going to be values that we're going to be inserting. It's kind of hard to explain, or my brain's just not with it to explain it that well right now, but it all makes sense as we get going with it. Okay, so our first one is going to be first name, and we set that one out of varchar 50. Make sure you put a comma in there if you have more than one field, or you're going to be calling more than one parameter. Then at last name was the second field, and that was also varchar 50. And final one was email, and I made that one a varchar 100. Okay, and then here's where we're going to create our insert statement. So we're going to go insert into, and then the name of our table. So in my case, it's dbo.people. And the fields that we're going to be inserting into. So in our case, it's first name, last name, and email. Close that off, and then we're going to assign it some values. So we'll type in values, and then Inside our values, this is where we're going to be using our parameters that we just created up top there. So first name, last name, and email. Okay, so these go by order here. So we got first name number 1, last name number 2, email number 3. So whatever we put into our first name is going to be, into our first name. So say we set this one at last name, for example, and we call that in our method, then our last name is going to go into our first name field, and our first name is going to go into our last name or email field. So I hope that part makes sense. This is just a real simple insert statement. So now I'm going to go ahead and click update, and that's going to update the script against the database, and it's going to create that stored procedure for us. Okay, so once that's done successfully, we need to use this somehow. So how are we going to use this? We're going to right click on our project name. We're going to go add new. And we're going to put this into a link to SQL class file because we're going to be converting this stored procedure into a function. So we'll just call this one people classes, I guess. You can name it whatever you want. Just go ahead and we'll click add. Okay, so now that's been added, I'm just going to refresh our stored procedure folder. Can you see that we have our create contact procedure? I'm just going to drag and drop that into our methods pane, and you can see that that automatically creates the method for us. So you see that we have first name as string, last name as string, and email as string. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll save our project. So now there's one thing that we need to do in order for us to be able to access that method. We'll get to that one in a second. I'm just going to go into our toolbox here. I'm just going to grab 3 text boxes. Hello? Okay, I'm just going to take the name off of that one, and we need to name our controls here that we're going to be calling. Let's call this one txt first. Whoops. Then just going to copy and paste. Txt last. And then txt email. Okay, so once we got that done, I'm going to go ahead and just drop a button onto the form or onto the window. And I'm just going to resize the window a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to double click on our button to create our button click event. Okay, so within our class, but before our button click event, we need to declare a new instance of our people classes link to SQL class file that we just created. So we'll go public, I don't know, new contacts as new people classes data context. That's the name of the linked SQL class file that we created. Okay, so now we're just going to put this into a try catch block, and now we can access this that method or that function by saying new contact dot create contact, and inside now it's going to take the 3 parameters, which is what we created in our stored procedure. So txt first name, or txt first, txt last, and then txt email. Then we'll just call a message box. Database updated. And if there's an error, we're going to catch this error. And we'll have our error display inside of a message box. Oops. txt first.text. Last.text. And email.text. Okay, we'll hit F5 on our keyboard, or we can click the little play button to start debugging, and let's see if it works. Okay, so let's put in first name, last name, email, and we'll click the button. Okay, and then you can see that our database has been updated, meaning the record has been added to the database successfully. So I hope this video has helped. That's just one stored procedure that we can work with. I'm going to do another video, probably do a couple more or a few more, doing more stored procedures, and maybe we'll look at some other stuff along the way involving stored procedures as well. So I hope this has helped you getting started with it anyways. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if this video has helped you in any way, please smash up the like button, subscribe. I forgot what I was just going to say. Anyways, I hope this video has helped. I'm going to go eat my dinner now, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to work on some more videos for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.